shared. All right. Welcome, everyone, to my presentation. I'm going to share my screen here. And hopefully, let's see here, Keynote. We'll try this one. See everything? My little pizza?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Okay. So we're going to be talking about collaboration with Apple apps. Now, I did open this up to the public, so I'm going to just give a real brief presentation of who I am. I don't even have a slide for it. That's how brief it is going to be. That's how good I am at marketing. Didn't even create a slide. But for those of you who are not familiar, who are joining in, I'm Dan from Dan's Tutorials, and basically I create video tutorials on how to use the Mac, iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, and Apple TV. I have about 1,800 different tutorials on lessons on my site. The site also gives you access to things like this. I hold these on a weekly basis, and they range from Ask Me Anythings to where I'm like this one. I'm talking about a specific topic. So those are on Thursdays. So if you like what you see here, take a look at my site, and for the most part, everything's on there for free. But I'd appreciate if you joined. I can't do this for free, so it does help out, and your support, is helping a very small business, myself, and a little bit of my wife. So, all right. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get started here. What are there's that cough. Excuse me. What are we going to cover? So basically what we are going to take a look at is which apps we can share with, which are the Apple apps, and which ones we can collaborate. There is a difference between sharing and collaborating. So we're going to look at the difference between those. We're also going to look at what the requirements are. Then what we're going to do is take a quick demonstration of a few of these different sharing things, what we can do. I'm going to demo it, and then what we'll look at is how to set it up, actually set it up. So I want to demo it first so you can kind of get an idea of what we can do, and then we'll go and set it up. And I do have a couple of accounts here on my computers, and I also have Steve here, and he is also going to help me with some of these collaborations when we get to the setting up and all that, so you can kind of see how it works.
Woohoo!
All right. Thanks, Steve. So let's take a look at. I forgot to set this up for my. No. Where is it? Show presenter display. That's what I want. You don't want to see that. And what I need to do is fix my screen here a minute. Hold on. I'm setting it up so I can actually see what my screens are. It's hard to, well, anyway, we'll just go to the first one here. That's Zoom tab, Windows, Keynote, collaboration class, go. Collaboration class, go. There we are. All right, we're back in business. All right, so that's what that's going to be our game plan here. So the first thing is, basically what we're going to do is take a look at which apps we can share with and which ones we can collaborate, and what is the difference. So basically the way that it works is there's three different types. You can share only. This is what Maps is. So with share only, it's not a collaboration. You share it. It's kind of like sharing, really what it is. It's like sharing a document with someone, and then they can take that document and run with it. They're not connected. So all you're doing is just like, here you go. It's more like giving it away as opposed to sharing it. The Maps app is a good example of that. What we can do is we can create a guide And in that guide, if you're going somewhere, you can share that guide with someone else, and then they can look at that guide. But if you make a change to that guide, the change won't show up on their end. So they would have to update it on their end, or you'd have to reshare it again. So it's a very, very, very basic sharing kind of thing. The next level is what I call simple. And these are the calendar, your reminders, and Safari, believe it or not. We can share tab groups in Safari. So with these, what you can do is share events in the calendar app, of course. With the reminders, you can share lists, such as a grocery list. And then with Safari, you can share a a tab group. So, you can have a group of tabs and share that with someone or multiple people. And basically, it's not necessarily a collaboration. At that point, what you're doing, like with the calendar, I enter an event. My wife can see that event. She enters an event. I can see that event. I can delete an event. It'll delete it from her. So it's kind of like the basics of it. And then they have what I would call a full collaboration, and this is your notes, your pages, your numbers, Keynote, Freeform, and iCloud Drive. We saw this a little bit with Freeform when Steve and I demoed Freeform a few weeks ago. Basically, with this, what you are able to do is work on the document at the same time as someone else. So it's not, like with the calendar, it's a single event. With this, what I'd be able to do, as we saw in the Freeform a few weeks ago, I could add an image to a Freeform board. Steve could add an image to the Freeform board. Steve could go and change the text on it, and I would see that immediately on my end. Also, with these collaboration, with this collaboration, what we can also do is set restrictions on it. So you could set, if someone can view only, you can set this up on a document-wide basis, or you can go granular. And if I was sharing something with Steve, and let's say Chris, what I could do is I could say, Chris, you can manipulate it and make changes to it. And with Steve can only look at it. So you can get a little bit more granular with this as well. So you can make it on a document level or on a more granular. Then you can, as I say, you can do this with notes, pages, numbers, Keynote, Freeform, and then iCloud Drive. It kind of works along the same way, but instead of a document, you're sharing a folder. So what you are able to do is select a folder, and I can share that folder with Steve or with Chris, anyone here, or everyone here, and basically we'd be able to place and put documents in there and all that. It's like a Dropbox per se, but it's just all handled by Apple. So those are the different types of sharing that we have, sharing in collaboration. And we'll go through all of these a little bit more in detail. The first thing, though, is we have to take a look at the requirements. What do you need for this? Well, the first thing is you need to have an Apple ID. This is all Apple. Now, you don't need to necessarily have an Apple device. You can do this with a browser and iCloud.com. So if I was sharing a numbers document with Steve, he could go to iCloud.com if he had a PC, log in, and work on that document. And you can make it publicly available, but I would just say that, and to really get the full benefit, all parties need to have an Apple ID. So if you wanted to do this with someone that is on a PC, they would have to get an Apple ID. Of course, for the most part, everybody, I would love to know how many Apple IDs Apple has registered, because even my Android friends, they have an Apple ID through an iPad or something along that line. So they all have it. So Apple ID, an Apple device, or iCloud through a browser. And with iCloud Drive, you basically just need to turn iCloud Drive on, and we'll see that when I demonstrate that. If you share a numbers document, it needs to be stored in iCloud Drive. If you share a pages document, it needs to be stored in iCloud Drive. So iCloud Drive is necessary. And if you have a lot of documents with a lot of information in them, especially images and all that, this can add to the storage. And I didn't put it as a bullet point, but it's probably a safe bet. If you use this a lot, you're going to need to have a bigger plan. Get the 99-cent plan or something along that line, because it does take up space in your iCloud drive. At least the document side of it, pages, numbers, and Keynote kind of thing. All right, so let's take a look at a demonstration of basically how this all works. The first thing we're going to look at is how we work with guides in maps. So what I'm going to do is go over to my Mac and my iPad. Now, just so you know, these are two separate accounts. So I have on my Mac here, I don't have my Cursor Pro, let's enable that. On my Mac, if I go over to my system settings, and I am using Mac OS Ventura and iPad OS 16. Just want to clarify that. Although you can do a lot of this with older ones as well. So this computer is Abigail, that's one account, and Abigail's brother is Johnny. This is how I came up with Abigail. I chose John Appleseed when I first of all set this up, and being that Apple used that as a name. And come to find out, I don't think Johnny Appleseed ever got married. So I'm like, he needs to have somebody. So the rumor is he had a sister called Abigail. So that's where I came up with my names.
Dan, we
Yep.
can't see your screen.
You can't see my screen?
Nope, just the slide.
Okay, hold on here. Let me.
I can see it.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I could see it now.
Perfect. All right, thank you. All right, so this the Mac is Abigail, and the iPad is her brother Johnny, John Appleseed. So these are two completely separate. So when I go and share something or whatever, I'm not on the same iCloud account. I just I want to clarify that. These are on two separate accounts. And then what we'll do when I show how we set this all up, I'll pull Steve in and show you how we can actually even add more than these two people. So the first thing is maps. So the way that, this is the very basic of sharing. And what we can do with maps, I'm going to open up maps on my Mac here. What we can do with maps is create guides. I'm going to move this over to the left here a little bit, or right.
Do you mean to show your settings on your iPad? Because that's kind of covering up part.
There we go. I want to show both of them so you can kind of see. Well, actually, no, I can do that. I can get out of there. So let's go to the Mac. There we go. So basically with the maps, what we're able to do is create a guide. So let's just say I was going to Monterey, California. What I would do is I would search Monterey, go visit Chris out there, and you're going to see that we have these guides. And what I'm able to do is, bookmark these guides, and I can put them into my own guide, and then I can share that guide. So I'm going to go and add this. I call it UP for Upper Peninsula. Go and share that guide. You're going to see I have all these different places. And now what I'd like to do is share this with Johnny. So what I do is I just control click on it, and you're going to see share. And basically the way that the real basic sharing is, I just go and send it. So I could send it via mail, AirDrop, or anything like that. So I'm just going to go with messages, and I'm going to send it to Johnny here. It puts the link in there. And now if we go over to my iPad, I'm going to get a text here from Abigail, hopefully. There it is. And when I open it up, I can save this over to my guides. And now I have that same guide that Abigail had. Now, the problem with this, and I don't know if Apple changed this. I kind of remember where when we went with my friends to the UP a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I was able to actually create a list, and we were able to work on it together, but maybe it was just in my head. But unfortunately, what Apple has done or they haven't done yet, is any changes I make to this will not be updated. So if I go back over to my Mac and I add another place to visit to that guide here, it will not show up on my iPad. So it's
add the chart house over in Monterey.
What's that?
Add the chart house. CHART.
So that will not show up in there. So it's like a one-way street kind of thing. Very, very basic what you can do. Now, what you can do, and I didn't really talk about this, but what you can do with the Maps app, and it's really pretty cool. I'm going to actually go to my iPhone. I don't have a slide for this, but this is another form of sharing, and it's something that I use on a regular basis. So I'm on Johnny's iPhone here, and Johnny is going to go to, he's going to go to Mackinac City. So I just go and drive, and I go, and what I'm able to do at the very bottom is share this ETA with other people. So I'm going to share this with Abigail. And now, when we go over to the computer, because that's Abigail's computer, you're going to see that at the very top here, we have route from Johnny, and he is driving, and she's able to monitor, where I'm at. She will get alerts when I get close, or, this is going to be a 4-hour drive, 5-hour drive. If I get stuck in traffic, the Apple Maps will notice that and then alert Abigail that I'm going to be running a little bit late, or Johnny's going to be running a little bit late. So it does kind of keep her updated. So I use this, with my wife quite a bit. If we're going somewhere, so she just gets an ETA. Or what we will do is we will use this with our friends as well. So let's just say we're all meeting together somewhere. Just provide an ETA. All you have to do is put a destination in, and then you just share it. And then what you're able to do, I'm going to stop this here. You can kind of see when everyone's going to arrive. So that's a nice little sharing thing with the maps. But that's basically, as you can see, it's kind of like a one-way street with the Maps app. Now, with the, what's next here? With the next level, what we can do is we can share, and it's more or less a two-way street with the reminders and calendar. I'm just going to show you how it works with the reminders, but the calendar app works basically the same way. So let's go over to my computer. And if I go over to my reminders, I'm not going to set this up. We'll take a look at how we set all this up because there's a lot of options. I just kind of want to show you how it works. So here is my grocery list, and I'm sharing this with Johnny. So again, this is Abigail's computer. So I'm going to show both of my devices here. And you can see them both. Put them side by side there. And let's go over to my reminders app. And we have, eggs and bread in here. And you're going to see that we have eggs and bread on the iPad. Let's take this out of dark mode. All right. So we have eggs and bread there. Now, if I go and add something, let's say Abigail wants to go and add some soda. What you're going to see on the iPad here, I'm not going to touch it. There it is. It just added soda. So now what Johnny is able to do, if he actually goes over to his iPhone and he's shopping, he can go to the reminders here because it's shared with him. Groceries, oops. And now let's say that he's at the grocery store and he picked up the soda and the bread. Watch what happens on the computer. The other two just disappeared. So you have a form of collaboration with this. basically what, this is how Beth and I use it. We actually have this exact setup here for our grocery list. And essentially, I can add stuff to the grocery list. She can add stuff to the grocery list. And when she goes and buys something, she'll take it off of the list. And if I go and buy something, I can look at that list depending on where we're at, and I can take something off of that list. So it really works out well for stuff like that. The calendar, basically works the same way. If you go and open up the calendar and you have a shared calendar, I'll show you how you do that later. Basically, I can add an event. Beth can add an event. We're looking at the same calendar. We can kind of see each other's schedule. So in my case, what I do is I have a personal calendar. Beth has a personal calendar. And then we also have a shared calendar. So, we can kind of, if both of us are going somewhere, it goes into the shared calendar. And basically what we're able to do with those 3 calendars is kind of get an idea of, I'm not filling up her schedule with mine, and she's not filling up my schedule with hers, but we can kind of see what's going on. And, when we want to book something or go somewhere, we can see if we have something that night. It took me a while to get that all squared away. And when you do that kind of thing, you have to be pretty religious with it, because all you have to do is forget one event and the whole thing blows up, because then you don't trust your calendaring system anymore. So you got to be a little careful with that. But that's the second phase, as you can see how they all work. So now let's take a look at the third phase, and this is we're going to look at a numbers spreadsheet. And with the numbers spreadsheet, you're going to see how we can kind of set this all up and look at the activity, see what people have done, that kind of thing. So let's go back over to my Air, and I'm going to open up numbers here, and I have this test. Real creative name there, right? You're going to see right at the top there, it says this is shared. And when I go to my iPad and I open up numbers, I have this test. So I'm going to put them side by side so you can kind of see, they're both the same. And again, this is two different computers here, I'm not on the same iCloud account. So now what I'm going to do is go and move this pie chart here, this 7.6%. I'm going to move it back over here. And watch what happens on the iPad. You can see it move back over. Also, when I do that, let's go ahead and select something else here. There we go. What you're going to see is when I select something, so I'm going to select this chart again on the Mac, but watch what happens up here at the top of this chart here. This is Johnny's iPad. Abigail's going to select it. You're going to see a little AA right underneath my cursor. So basically what I'm able to do is see that Abigail selected something. So I can kind of see what she's working on. This is the full collaboration side of things. Also, if I go and move something, so now I'm going to go to the iPad here, and let's go and move something. Move that back out. If we look over at the Mac, you're going to see activity here, and it said that John moved the chart. So I can actually get an idea of what Johnny is doing with this. So you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. If I leave the spreadsheet, I'm going to leave it on the iPad, so I'm just going to go to my home screen. Eventually what's going to happen, you're going to see Johnny has left. So the Mac told me that Johnny has left. So when we set this all up, show you how I set this all up, and Steve comes and joins us, and even though he's over in Oregon, actually he's over in Virginia, I'll be able to see that he left, or whatever. It doesn't. These are sitting right next to each other, but that's just by circumstance, per se. So that's the full collaboration. On top of that, what you're able to do with this, if I go over to my Mac, what you're able to do is manage this, and like I said, This is the document-wide level. I can set it to where people can make changes or view only. So if I turn this on, the only thing that's going to happen is people are going to be able to view it. They won't be able to make changes. But on the flip side, what I could do, being that this is Abigail's spreadsheet, she's the owner, what she's able to do is go over to Johnny here and say, you know what, Johnny, you're making too many mistakes in here. You're spending too much money, Johnny. So then she can set it to view only. And now Johnny would only be able to view it, but she could invite other people and they'd be able to edit it. So that's that granular level kind of thing. So you can set that up. And you can also set it up to where anybody, with a link will be able to view it. You have to be a little careful with that, depending on the content, because anybody with a link will be able to open up your document. So you want to be a little careful with that. So, that's basically Pages works the same way. If I go to Notes and I share this note, you're going to see I can collaborate. I can send a copy. I have the same kind of thing. They make changes. So this is the full-on collaboration kind of thing. So basically, anybody will, the Notes, Pages, Keynote, any of those apps, you'll be able to do a full-on collaboration with. And then the last thing I'll demonstrate here, before we get into actually how we set this all up, is I'll show you how iCloud Drive works. Think of Dropbox. So if I go to my folders here and I go to iCloud Drive, you're going to see I have this shared with J.A., Johnny Appleseed. So anything I put in here, Johnny, I'm going to go to my iPad here. Oh, just had a light go out. Johnny will be able to go to his Files app, and if he goes to Shared, there's the Shared with JA, same exact folder. So he could put something in this folder, and then it would show up on Abigail's computer, and vice versa. So it's a full-on shared dropped folder. Now, you can set this. You have options here, and being that this is full-on collaboration, again, you can set it to where they can view only, can make changes, and just like with Pages, Keynote, and Notes, and Numbers, what you're able to do is make these granular controls in there as well. So the beauty of all this, I think Apple really has done a really good job. Steve and I briefly touched on this earlier when we were chatting, and they've kind of made things a lot easier, I think. Excuse me. They've made things a lot easier, and once it's the old Apple way, is what I call it. We all know that we've been using Apple for a while, and once you learn one program, this was always part of their human interface guidelines. Once you learn one program, it was very easy to pick up another one. Command Q, quit out of whatever you're using. You go up to File, you go to your Preferences. You pick up one program. For the most part, everything else is just like that. And I think they got away from that a little bit over the years, and I kind of see this as a trend of getting back to that. You learn this on one app, you're going to be able to do it on any of the other apps because it works the exact same way, as you can see. It just depends on their sharing capability, but for the most part, they all work the same way. So
is that transferable concept? I mean,
yeah,
okay.
Yep. That's the idea behind it, which is what I really like. And I don't think it was this easy or it was this consistent in the past. It was, each app worked a little bit different, or the group of apps worked a little bit different. But it seems to be, even down to iCloud Drive, that just works really, really well. And it works the same way as any of the other ones. Before we get into the next phase, which is we're going to look at how we set this up. Does anyone have? Oh, I do have the shared. Okay, so does anyone have any questions on this? We'll pause for questions.
Are you going to tell us how you marked something to share it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's what we're going to look at next. Yep.
thanks.
So Dan,
Yeah.
my question is, when you share a note with a person that's viewing it on iCloud.com from a PC, and I go in there and make a change to the note, how do they get notified? Do they have to physically open up iCloud?
Yeah, well, when you first set up sharing, you'll get the little notification. I already set it up so you couldn't see it, but when you're going to see the little notification, and actually, let's see if I can find it here. We're going to go to my numbers here, and let's just open this back up. Collaboration, activity settings. Right here, when people edit, notify, don't notify. So you can go in there. Now, this is not for everything. So this is with pages, numbers, and Keynote. What we're able to do is set notifications. But with notes, let's see if we can do this with notes. And this is the beauty of it is, again, they all roughly work the same way. There's going to be little differences. But if I want to see if they have that same setting, where do I go? I go up to the sharing. Oops, I got to select it here. And we go to, I haven't shared this one. So let's go ahead and share this. Messages, preparing, and I'm going to send this to return. And we're going to go over to my iPad. I know I'm kind of going through this quickly right here. I'll show you in detail what I'm doing here, but we're going to test out that question here. Open it up, and now I'm in that note. Full screen, there it is. So let's go back over to these. This note is being shared. So what we're going to do is go back over to my Air, and what I would like to do is continue. There it is, notifications. So it asks, do you want to set up notifications for this? And I would say allow. And now, yes, I will get notifications when someone makes a change to it.
You would get notifications on the Mac.
Yeah,
But
and
this is a,
yeah,
this is a person on a PC.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm going to say probably not because there's no notifications. Now, maybe with Apple, with Mac OS Ventura, it's not released yet. They are working on a new notification center where it comes through the browser or notifications that work through the browser. So maybe something with that, but I'm going to say just off the top of my head, no, it won't work that way. So with a PC.
Dan,
Okay, thank you.
check your messages. Sent some invites there.
Send it to probably
To
Johnny.
to Mr. Appleseed.
All right, let's see here. I do not see anything. I'm looking at my iPad. Steve, there's your freeform stuff that you sent me.
Yeah, there should be another one down below the YDKM, my mug address. Two spots below.
Oh, I'm in right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if you see anything there. And if you scroll up, see if you see anything for YDKM at Mac.com.
Nope.
Nothing?
Nothing.
That's weird. I sent the invites there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, just send them to Noteboom. Here, I'll show you. Send them to noteboomproductions@me.com. So if anybody wants to try it, you can send me a noteboomproductions@me.com. All right, let's get into, basically, let's get into how this all works, how to set up sharing, and how you invite others and manage the settings for it and all that. So we're first, let's go over to the air. We kind of saw, I'm going to skip over the very basic. We saw how maps work. It's pretty simple how the maps thing works. You're just sharing a document, and with the ETA, it's a great tool. Refresh. All you have to do is go to your maps. You need to set a destination. I'm going to end this route here. So if you're going somewhere, set the destination. You need to go. So first of all, you find the destination. You need to go to the destination. And the reason why you need to do that is Apple Maps needs to know when you're going to arrive, so then they can tell other people when you're going to arrive. So you actually have to start a route. Now, once you start that route, if you go down to the bottom, you're going to see it says Share ETA. I just tap on that, and I can share it with other people. So that's basically how the Share ETA works. It's, 3 steps? Pretty simple. I'm going to stop sharing here. We're not going to Mackinac City. It's too cold up there. There we go. But now let's take a look at the Reminders app, and then we'll go into the calendar apps and kind of see how those things work. With the with the Reminders app, what you'll do is, let's go and hide some of these other windows, and I got calls coming in. All right. And basically all we have to do is create a new list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a list here, and let's just call this collaboration outline, and hit OK. I've got my list here. Next thing I need to do is I need to share it. So I'm going to share this with 2 people. I'm going to share this with Johnny. Again, this is Abigail's computer. And I'm going to share it with Steve. So all I have to do is just go up, click on the little icon here, the share icon for that list. And then I set the settings. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I think it's always a good thing. Get in the habit of doing this. Just click on this and set what you want to do. Do you want other people to be able to invite people? So in other words, when I send this out to Steve and he accepts it, I send this out to Abigail, what Steve could do is invite other people to it. If that's okay, leave this checked. If you don't want him to do it, if you want to keep it closed, then what you do is unselect this. Steve will still be able to join, but he won't be able to ask anyone else. You are the one that's in control of who can join that reminders list.
I'm inviting Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. And then when we go to messages here, basically, all I have to do is say, Abigail. Oops, it's under No Boom Productions. No Boom. And then I would go, Steve. What?
You could send. You could invite the mug address.
Gotta look here a minute. Because this is a different account. I have you under my Johnny's account, but I don't have it under Abigail's. Abigail doesn't know who you are. So, give me
we've never been formally introduced.
True. Not that one. And how about this? Let's see here. Sorry, people. No, not that one. Send me. Let's do it with No Boom Productions for right now, and then we'll go over to my. I have him on the other one. So what I'm going to do is first send it over to Johnny. So I just hit return, and I could put a little note in here. Check this out. Hit return. Takes a minute for it to prepare it. And when we go over to the iPad, you're going to see I have a message here. And essentially, there it is. Check this out. And all I have to do is just select this. It's retrieving it. And I open this up in the reminders. And there it is, collaboration. That's really all we have to do to set up collaboration using reminders. And now, being that anybody can invite this, what Johnny's able to do is go and invite Steve. Because I kept it open. So now Steve should get a text, and then what he's able to do is join this on his iPad, his computer, and now we have 3 people on this list, and we can sit here and add things and remove things and do all that good stuff. So Abigail invited Johnny, and then Johnny went and invited Steve, so you can kind of see where this can go. And if you don't want that, you just go back over to the owner has to go and set this up. So basically what Abigail would do is go over here and just say, basically, I don't want Steve to be able to add other people, and I can remove access where he can't add other people. He'll still have access to the reminders list, but he can't add anyone to it. So that's that granular control.
You should see some changes on that collaboration.
Oh, I do. Right here. Invite Aaron Rodgers. And I will go in here and say, and Joe Noteboom. And now he will get that on his end. And if we go over to my Mac or Abigail, you're going to see that Abigail had that as well. So we're all just kind of working in free time here, just adding and removing things, and kind of a nice little thing for just even outlines like this with the reminders list. And if you want to go and manage it, all you have to do is just look for this little icon here, the sharing icon. And here's where we can set if we want to notify. So, Abigail will get notifications when there's any changes to it. If you don't like that, you can turn that off. And then here are the permissions. Anyone can add more people. Let's see what this looks like with the calendar app. So when I go over to my calendar app here, I would create a new calendar. And we'll call this one football. And what I would like to do is share this. I'm going to share this with, as you can see, there's not a lot of change. Oops, I've got notebook. Note from Productions at me.com.
I think everyone can see too that how tightly integrated your contacts are to all these apps, because
and that's I need to tighten that up on my demos. Like Steve was talking about, really I should be able to just pick a contact, but these are my demos, so I need to fill it in with just some random names, that kind of thing.
Same with me. I've been doing the same thing.
Yeah. So if we go over to my iPad, you're going to see that I have a little 1 here above the 9, and go to the little thing. Do I want to join that football calendar? You have to accept it. All these are invitations, so it's not like it's going to be automatic. And I just say join the calendar. And now if I go and add an event in here, Abigail will see that. If Abigail goes and adds an event, I will see that. And let's see if we can invite Steve to this. Football. Abigail is the owner. Doesn't look like only Abigail can invite other people to a calendar. So that's one of the limitations of the calendar, looks like. So I'd have to go over to the Mac, and then what I'm able to do is go and invite other people to it.
If you go to messages and check that YDKM again, I thought I saw a calendar invite for you in there.
On the iPad?
Oh, that's what I'm not sure about, whether it was iPad or, there you go, down below.
YDKM?
That one.
Yeah. I got freeform, no calendar.
Nothing there? That is weird.
See if you get that.
I did, thank you.
All right. So that's how basically how calendar and the calendar and reminders work. Now let's go and take it to the next level. We're going to go into we'll go into numbers here, and numbers, pages, Keynote, all that. Like I said, they all kind of basically work the same way. So even though I'm going to show you on numbers, it doesn't mean that the other ones don't work. So we're going to go into numbers here. I'm going to create a new spreadsheet. I'm going to show you how we can share a document. And then what we'll do is we'll look at iCloud Drive and how we can do that. And then we'll end up with a little Q&A. That's how we're going to roll this out. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go with a personal budget here. Just use their template here. So Abigail is setting this up. And first thing that we need to do is we need to save this. It does need to be saved, and it does need to be saved in iCloud. This is how Apple distributes these documents, Pages, Keynote, and numbers. So I'm going to go up to the top here, and we just go and click on it and save. So this is budget, not nudge it. Make sure it's in iCloud. Typically what I'll do is I'll just put it into the numbers, and you can create subfolders within this. So if you actually go to my personal account, if I were to go to my personal account and look at my Keynote, I have a folder for AMAs. I have a folder for presentations. I have a folder for InMugs, so stuff that I do with Naples. So you can create subfolders within these folders. So you don't have to, if you have a lot of documents and all that, you don't have to just keep them all loose in the numbers folder. But I'm just going to go and create budget here. That is now on iCloud, which means I'm able to share this. Now, if it's not in iCloud, let's go and move it. A little trick here, we can move it. Let's go and move it to my downloads. This is not in iCloud. So basically just moved it to my downloads folder here. Watch what happens when I try to share this. I'm going to go to share here and collaborate. I can set it just to send a copy if I wanted to, but we want to collaborate. I go to messages, and you're going to see it needs to move it to iCloud. So if it's not in iCloud, you'll get a notification that it is. So what I'm going to do is go back up under File here. We're going to move it back over into iCloud. And now when I go back over to share, I'm able to message this, and it's all set. I'm going to send it over in Productions and hit return. You can see it's working there a little bit. It does take a minute because it has to prepare it. So if it's a larger document, it might take a little bit. And when I go over to my iPad, there's the budget. I click on it. I want to open this up. Kind of looks familiar. It's downloading it. And there's the budget. So now what Johnny is able to do is edit this at the same time as what Abigail is. So if Abigail were to open this up, so basically we can work on this at the same time. So if I move this over, you're going to see it moves over. I go and change something here. $200, that's not much for an auto anymore, so I go and change that to 400, and when we go over here, you're going to see it's at 400, and it's virtually instant. And then if I go and tap on the little share, remember this is what we're looking for. Whoops, I don't want there. We're looking for this little share icon. I can see all of the activity, but let's go and invite someone else. We're going to go and invite Steve. So now I just go and click on the eye, and oops, wrong one. Go back over here. Manage. We have to go and manage it. And what I'm able to do is share this with Steve. join us. New participants will be able to see all items in the folder. Yeah. And now, Steve got a text, and what he's able to do is go and join this, and we can have 3 people working on this spreadsheet at the same time. So we can be sitting here on FaceTime and being, kind of going through everything and working on it all at the same time. And if I go over to Abigail, who's the owner, if you go up to collaboration, let's take a look at a few of these settings here. When I go to collaboration, what I'm able to do is see all of the activity, and we can do this on the iPad and iPhone as well. iPhone is a little small, but you're going to see that myself, Oregon, so Steve joined it, and then also Johnny. We're all working on the spreadsheet, so he just added an arrow to it, Steve did. And if we look here, you're going to see that Oregon added a shape to it. So as Steve is working on it, I can kind of see what he's doing. Go ahead and change some text on it once, Steve, and we'll see what the activity tells us.
All right. I think let's change medical to more realistic $400.
Okay. So that's down here. And you can kind of see what he's doing. Now he's on 300. I'm not highlighting that. Steve is highlighting that. That purple is Steve. And you're going to see he edited a sheet, and when I click on the arrow here, I can actually see what he's done. He edited cells B6 and B7. And if I go over to the iPad, so Abigail can see that. Well, let's see what this looks like on an iPad. When I go over to the iPad, you're going to see we have a number 2, so 2 people are collaborating. Actually, it's 3, 2 plus the person, so 2 plus Johnny here. And we have show all activity. So now I can see all the activity. Steve edited it. What did he do? There's the arrow. And when I click on him, it actually takes me to it. So when I click on budget here, he moved this arrow. So when I click on budget, you're going to see that the arrow highlights. I click on summary here, the cells highlight. So I can actually, instead of like, okay, so he changed B5 to B, bingo thing. Instead, if you have a large spreadsheet, that can be kind of tough to go and find all that stuff. Well, you don't have to. You can just select it, and it'll take you to it. So pretty, it's actually pretty robust. So when I was kind of putting this together, I was surprised at how much it did. And that's, Steve and I were talking a little about that earlier today. It's surprising. And this is Google Docs level, except obviously a lot better than Google Docs. I mean, Google Docs, excuse me, is very limited. So let's go back over to, so you can kind of see he's adding stuff there. The arrow is there. And now he just added that arrow, and what I'm able to do is move that arrow. Even though he added it, I can go and move it. We kind of did this a little bit with Freeform a few weeks ago. Let's go and take a look at the settings that we have with it. So we're going to go back over to the Air, and what I'm able to do is go up to collaboration here, and let's just say that Johnny or Steve is kind of changing things around a little too much for me, like slow down, Steve, kind of thing. So I can go over to the 3 dots here, the more, and what I'm able to do is set it to where Steve can only view only, and now Steve can't make any changes. You're going to see it says view only. All the changes that he made are still going to be there, but he can't make any further changes to it. So what you can do is you can kind of pause, be like, I need to look at this. And now I can go back over to Steve and say, all right, yep, I want to allow him to make changes again. You can go back and allow him to make changes. So it's kind of a way to like, let's just put a hold on this and let's sit on this for a week. And then you can go back and, now Steve can make changes to it again. On top of that, if you wanted to stop sharing, you can also just stop sharing. But also what we do have here is activity settings. And when I click on this, this is where I can go and show the participants' cursors. So this is where I can kind of see what Steve is doing. I can't actually see his cursor, but when he selects something, I can see what he's selecting. So I would recommend leaving this on. Same thing with the highlights here. So, and I can also set, I'm not sure why these are grayed out, to be honest. Oh, these are grayed out because I have, and all you have to do is just kind of read, notifications is turned off. So that's why I'm not getting notifications. If I go and turn notifications on in my system settings, I'd be able to set when I get notified. So let's go ahead and do that. Open up my settings here. We're going to go to numbers. We can see that it is off, so let's go and allow them. And now, when I go back over here, activity settings, I can go and get notifications now. So when people edit, what I'm going to get is a notification. I can set it for always notify. When people join, this, that, and the other. And now, if Steve were to make changes to it, go ahead and try to make a change, Steve. What I should get is a notification saying that Steve made a change to it. We'll see if it actually works that way. So
Okay.
now I'm watching him. That's a cat. Cat's running around here. So Steve just made a change. I could see him on my iPad here. He was making a change there. I didn't see a notification come across on my Mac. I don't know why. But anyway, it's supposed to work that way. But I might have my notifications set a little wonky. Now let's take a look at iCloud Drive. Now, this is all for documents and all that, but we can also share, folders. And essentially, the way that we do that is we just go over to our iCloud Drive, and I'm going to create a new folder here, and we'll call this one Steve and JA for Johnny Appleseed. So right now it is not shared. This is just a standard folder. If we look here, this one is shared. That's how you can easily tell if a folder is shared. If we go and control click on this, control is your friend. This is where you get your contextual menu. Right click on a mouse, that kind of thing. What you're going to see is share. And when you select share, what you're able to do is set, kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? We can set who can access the folder. We can set who can make changes. And we can set if the other people that we invite are able to invite other people. So I'm going to go with messages here, and I'm going to send this to Noteboom Productions. That is Johnny's email address. And now that folder is shared with Johnny, so I'm going to go over to my iPad. I have this message here. Steve and JA. I'll go and open it. And there it is. And look what we have. We have that nice little icon there. Anything that I put into this folder will now show up on Abigail's computer. And if I wanted to go and invite Steve to this folder, just like we do with pages, now Steve is going to get an invitation for that folder, and what he'll be able to do is access that as well. So he could put a document in there, and Johnny would have it, and Abigail would have it. To manage these settings with iCloud, all you have to do is right-click on it. So you're going to see that when I right-click on it and I go to share, it's typically how I would do it, you're going to see, hopefully here, where's the manage? Only invited people who can access it. How do I see the invited people? All right. I was doing so well. I do not see. Steve, do you know how you can see? Oh, manage shared folder. I got it. Never mind. There it is. If I go and manage this now, what I'm able to do is, invite more people. So I'm going to have, I'll just do this. I don't have Steve's email address on here. But basically, what you'd be able to do is set in here if they can make changes, if they can invite other people, that kind of thing. And that's basically how it all works. So, does
Dan?
Yeah.
So everybody can feel the difference between the two. If Dan had sent that invite for the shared folder to my mug address on my Mac, it would appear as a folder on my Mac and as a shared folder. But the address he sent the invite to was the one I'm logged into on my iPad. And now that's different because, as you know, it's not like a Mac. You have a Files app. So when the invite came across, it looks like a zip file. It actually has a zip suffix. So I have to add it to my Files app before I can see that folder and then use it.
Okay. So Apple must send that as a zip file?
Correct.
When they share it? I didn't see that on here, but basically, it's just how it works in the background. What they're doing is they're compressing that folder. So if you have a lot of stuff in there, it might take a little bit. And then then they send it, and then it's all shared. And like Steve was talking about, on the iPad and iPhone, it's all done through the Files app. The Files app is, basically like the Finder on a Mac. I mean, not as robust, not nearly as robust, obviously, as the Finder.
Right.
But it is, for on a very, very, very basic level, it is the Finder. I can look at my folders here. I can view them in list view. I can view them in icon view. I can sort them. This is basically what we can do with the Finder as well. So, so basically when you do share a folder with the iPad and iPhone, this is all done through the Files app. So, all right. Let's see here. What I think we are at the Q&A. So I have about 10 minutes. Anyone have any questions on it? All right. Let's wrap that up, and then we can get into what I call the afterglow, and we can just do a little chit-chat and see how everyone's doing. And
check your messages again for any of the invites that I sent you.
Oh, I do have them. So if on the iPad, it's one thing I forget. I hardly ever use Abigail's account on this computer, so I don't, but yeah, you can see that Steve has sent me an app wish list on the Mac. I'm retrieving it. So this is what Steve went through, and I'd have to go and confirm my email address, blah 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 blah. But
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but basically, I would just go and click OK, and everything's all going to work. So I want to let me do this wrap up. I want to thank everyone. Hopefully it was helpful. I found it actually pretty interesting when I was kind of putting this all together. And I hope you found something out of it. And for those that are new to the site, watch us later or anything like that. If you like what you see, check out Dan's tutorials. Not Dance Tutorials, it's Dan's Tutorials. And if you like what you see, become a member and help support a small business and help me keep this going. So thank you. And I will stop recording here.